So you have a test next week on Tuesday, a summative assessment over compound sentences. We're going to do some review on Monday, but just want to make sure you have enough resources to make sure that you've studied well and that you have all the information that you need. I'm going to do a screencast. I'll share this document with you in Google Classroom. What I would suggest before watching the screencast is that you do the activity and then you watch the screencast to check your work. So if that's what you're going to do, what I would do right now is pause the screencast, go complete the document, and then check back in here when you're done. You'll see on here that I have made you some tools to drag over. So when it says circle the coordinating conjunction, you can move these around, label the subjects, and whatnot. So I know I typically like doing grammar on pencil paper, but that's a little bit difficult to do since I didn't print this off for you yet. All right, so you need to know what the job of a coordinating conjunction is. What does it do? It connects, we talked about co, meaning together or with. It connects together two words or phrases or clauses, and clauses are sometimes sentences. But I want you to move away from this idea that we only use the coordinating conjunction to connect two sentences. They can connect lots of things. It just happens to be that if they connect two sentences, we have a different kind of sentence to look for. You need to make sure you know your 7 coordinating conjunctions. We use the mnemonic Fanboys to help you remember them. So if that helps you, then the first thing I would do on my test is write this out so that I can then know that one begins with an F, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So those are the 7 coordinating conjunctions you need to know. Those are the 7 first points on your test. You need to know the formulas for simple and compound sentences. Well, for a simple sentence, it's pretty easy. It's just a subject plus a verb. That's all you need. You can have lots of phrases, but you've got to have a subject and you've got to have a verb. To make a compound sentence, you have a subject and a verb with a comma and then a coordinating conjunction and then another subject and verb. So we look for the comma conjunction. If there's a subject and a verb on both sides, then we have a compound sentence. We know that sometimes we'll see a comma conjunction if there's a list. So if we don't see a subject and a verb on the other side, then that's probably what it's doing. And then just to recap, we keep coming across some of these verbs. I know you learned verbs. You were supposed to do verbs in 4th grade. It's been a while. So I want to just recap. Anytime you see these words, am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been, they're always verbs. And there are very few instances in the English language where we can say this is always the case, but that's kind of the nice thing about verbs. Alrighty, so we look at a sentence. This is the process that we go through. We circle the coordinating conjunction first. Mama had never laughed, but Liddy and Charles and the babies had laughed so hard. So I see a coordinating conjunction here, and I see another one here. Now this second one, there's no comma, so that tells me it's probably not, well, it's not going to be a compound sentence for this reason, but this one has a comma. So now I need to go through my process, and I'm going to look for any phrases. I don't see any phrases in here. So now I have to look on the left side before the comma conjunction. It says, Mama had never laughed. If I want to find my subject and verb, sometimes I think it's easier to find the verb first. That's the action that's happening. Laughed is the action. And then I can find the subject by saying, who laughed? Or in this case, who never laughed? That would have been Mama. So I've got a subject and a verb on the left side of the comma conjunction. Let's look on the other side. We have Liddy and Charles and the babies had laughed so hard. Oh, I actually see another conjunction here. Now that tells me that whatever is on either side of that and is doing the same job. And I can tell that we've got some more laughter going on here. This time, who's laughing? This time it's going to be Liddy and Charles and the babies. So because I found subjects and verbs on both sides of the comma conjunction, then I know that this sentence is going to be, compound. I can highlight it. All right, let's look at the next one. He had fetched wood from the shed and left the door ajar. I see a prepositional phrase here, so I'm going to highlight it. Eliminate phrases, and then look for a coordinating conjunction, and I see and. It does not have a comma, so I know right away that this is a simple sentence because it doesn't have a comma. But I do still need to prove that it's a simple sentence by finding the subject and verb. So I'm going to look at what's left here. He had fetched wood and left the door ajar. I see fetched, that's when you go get something. And I also see the verb over here, left. That tells me that this conjunction is joining together two verbs. So now to find the subject, I'm going to ask, who fetched and left the door ajar? Well, that would be he. He had fetched and left the door ajar. All right, and that one's done because I figured out that it was simple. Number 3, Charles and she would try to mend, but he was only 10 and she 13. I see an infinitive here, to plus a verb, to mend. So I'm going to put brackets around it. And I see, again, two conjunctions, comma, but, which tells me it might be compound, and then and, which I know that one will not be. So I'm going to look on the left side of my comma conjunction. It says Charles and, oh, there's another and. Charles and she would try. I know to mend is not going to be my main verb because it's already got a job. It's in an infinitive. So I know right now that's not my verb. But I do see another verb, try. You can try. That's an action. And I'm going to ask myself, who would try to mend? Well, Charles did and she did. So this conjunction is joining together two subjects doing the same verb. So I've got a subject and a verb on the left. Let's look on the other side. He was only 10 and she 13. Well, I know from my list on that last page that was is always, always a verb. So was is my verb, and I'd ask, who was only 10? He was only 10. And because I found a subject and a verb on both sides of my comma conjunction, then I know that this is a compound sentence. Number 4. There was the door to mend, the mess to be cleaned up, and the wasted porridge. So I see an infinitive here, to mend, like is to sew or to fix, so that's an action. And to be is a verb, but to clean, to be cleaned, so that's another infinitive. I don't see any prepositional phrases, so I'm going to go search for a conjunction, and I see one here. Actually, I know I'm going to need that later, so I copied another one. All right, and with a comma tells me that this could be compound. So now I have to see, is there a subject and a verb on both sides? It says, there was the door, the mess, and the wasted porridge. Well, I remember talking in class that we said there is never, ever, ever the subject. So I'm going to start with the verb. I know was is always, always, always the verb. So what was there? The door was there. On the other side, I have the wasted porridge. Well, I see porridge could be a subject, and I see some adjectives describing it, but I don't see any verbs. So that tells me that this is a list. It's a list of 3 things that needed done. There was the door to mend, the mess to be cleaned, and the wasted porridge. So this is for a list, and that makes this a simple sentence. Then she watched a pair of swallows dive and soar around the huge chimney in the center of the main house. All right, I'm going to look for my phrases first. I see of swallows. Swallows are a type of bird. I see around. Around what? Around the huge chimney. I see in. In what? In the center. And I see of. Of what? Of the main house. Lots of prepositional phrases to get rid of here. All right, now I'm going to go look for a conjunction, and I see one right here, and it does not have a comma, so I know right away that this is a simple sentence. There's no comma with the conjunction. But I still need to prove it, so I'm going to go back and see what my subject and verb are. Well, I know watched is a verb. That's something you can do. So then I'd ask myself, who watched? And that would be she. So this is the exact process that you would want to go through as you label your sentences for the test. There's a second page here. If you want to do this now and then email me, I will check it for you. I'm not going to do the screencast for this part. I did a screencast for the first 5. Now you're going to apply it here, and if you want me to grade it, you can email me and I will check it for you. If you have any questions as you do this, you can always email me as well.